You know, for decades, Adobe has basically been the undisputed king of creativity. They've built this massive empire with tools we all know, like Photoshop and Acrobat. But today, that very kingdom finds itself at a huge crossroads, facing incredible opportunities, but also some really serious threats. So we're going to break down all the latest intelligence on the company to figure out where it's headed next.
On the surface, man, things look great. Adobe just dropped its quarterly results, and this number, 7, is a big deal. It marks the 7th straight quarter that the company has totally smashed financial expectations. But that's really only half the story.
Because yeah, mixed right in with all that good news was this bombshell. After nearly 2 decades of just transformative leadership, the CEO who guided Adobe into this modern era, well, he's retiring. And that injects a massive dose of uncertainty right at the moment when they need stability the most.
So what you've got here is a classic conflict. On one hand, you have this incredibly strong performance. I mean, revenue shot up 12% to over $6 billion, which was way above their own guidance. And on the other hand, you have the departure of a legendary CEO kicking off a completely new chapter.
And that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? To really understand Adobe's future, you first have to get a handle on the powerful, complex business it is today. So, let's take a peek inside the empire.
So, this Adobe empire, it's really built on 3 main pillars. And while most of us probably know them for just 1 or 2 famous products, the way these pieces all fit together is what really makes the company such a powerhouse.
Okay, let's break this down. No surprise, the famous Creative Cloud. We're talking Photoshop, Premiere Pro, that's the engine, making up a huge 60% of the revenue. But look at the other 2. Digital Experience, which is their marketing and analytics side, that's a quarter of the whole business. And the Document Cloud, built around the PDFs, which they literally invented, still brings in a solid 15%. That diversification is absolutely key to their strength.
All right, so with that foundation in mind, let's look at the argument for why Adobe's best days might actually still be ahead. This is the bull case, the optimistic view on why this kingdom is built to last. First off, they are the industry standard. Seriously, creative pros pretty much have to use their tools to work with anyone else. They completely own the PDF space. And they're not just sitting still, they're innovating like crazy with AI tools like Firefly, and they're bringing in tons of new users with simpler stuff like Adobe Express, all while pushing hard into the super lucrative world of enterprise marketing. It's a really powerful position to be in.
But of course, for every bull, there's gotta be a bear. And the arguments against Adobe, they're definitely getting louder. The kingdom isn't just strong, it's also a kingdom under siege, with threats coming from all sides.
So here's the challenge. Adobe's dominance is being tested like never before. You've got these fast-moving rivals like Canva and Figma that are really gaining ground. There's also this very real fear that generative AI could, eventually, just replace the need for some of Adobe's software entirely. Oh, and that digital experience business, it's a super crowded, tough field where Adobe is definitely not the guaranteed winner. These are serious, serious threats.
Okay, so you have this strong, dominant company facing these fierce, disruptive threats. It's a classic business showdown. So where does the expert analysis actually land? Let's get to the final take.
Now, to make sense of all this, analysts use a couple of key concepts to cut through the noise and figure out what the company's really worth. Let's walk through how they see it. First, you need to understand this idea of an economic moat. Just picture it like the real thing. You know, the walls and the water around a castle that protect it from invaders. A wide moat means really strong protection. A narrow one means the defenses are, well, a little less certain. Now, here's the thing. Analysts agree Adobe does have a moat, but, and this is a big but, they recently downgraded it from wide to narrow. Why? Because the rise of AI and those competitors we talked about, like Figma and Canva, has started to weaken those castle walls, creating a lot more uncertainty about their long-term dominance. So what does that all mean for its value? Well, despite the risks, the analyst's fair value estimate is actually $380 per share, but the stock was recently trading way down around $270. That gap suggests that, in the analyst's view, the market might be a little too pessimistic right now.
And that brings us to the final verdict. The analyst sees the stock as undervalued, but, and this is the big catch, it's an opportunity for investors who are patient and, maybe most importantly, willing to tolerate those significant risks we just discussed. So yeah, it's an opportunity, but it is absolutely not a sure thing.
And so, that's where we are. Adobe is a titan of its industry, no doubt, but it's facing its biggest challenges in a generation, all while getting ready for a new leader. The question now is pretty simple.
Will its next chapter be a story defined by its own powerful innovation, or by the forces of disruption storming the castle gates?